When nations are ranked and compared, we urge ranking them by capabilities, not by GDP or by satisfaction. But which capabilities are the most important? Given my interest in normative theories of social justice and in constitutional law, I then took the next step, asking which capabilities should be the focus of our concern if our aim is to design a minimally just society. Any use of the idea of capabilities for the purposes of normative law and public policy must ultimately take a stand on substance, saying that some capabilities are important and others are less important.
So I'll stop it there, but of course, you might have already watched it. This is, of course, the kind of lectures you watch multiple times and get more out of it each time, depending on how long you stay awake. Sorry about the sexy comment, but I mean, I'm thinking, see, when I think of Martha Nussbaum, remember, she's just a few years older than I am. And I remember when she looked like this.
Acting in a school play, you can't do both things, and it's not simply that
See what I mean?
you can't do both, but whatever you do, you're going to be neglecting something that's
So
really
she's older now.
But we weren't taught to rank obligations, to, you know, to
Was
choose
he one of the ones
priorities,
that had
and
to
not
quit
to make
because he
every
ended up being sexually
conflict of
harassed? No,
competing
that was
goods
Matt
a
Lauer.
great war
Charlie
zone.
Rose, is that?
There's nothing illogical, it seems to me, about saying, I am going to care deeply about my work and my writing.
You know, what's
I'm also
funny
going to care
is,
deeply about my family, my child. You know, it's only somebody who's trying to evade the recognition of what's actually happening who's going to say,
Sometimes
oh, look,
Charlie
I'll
Rose
rank my obligations and I'll decide,
is
oh, well, in this
supposed to be
situation,
the
it's the work that takes
interviewer,
priority,
and
so
they
the
have
other
a
one just drops
substitute
out, and
because
it's
he's
not
on
only
vacation or
duty,
something.
it's contrary to
They
duty.
still refer to it as
I mean,
Charlie Rose.
that isn't what real people do, and I think it's also not what good people do.
So she's also an Aristotelian, and one of the things I highlighted for tonight was Aristotle's interpretation of tragedy, which might strike you as odd because Americans don't believe in tragedy. If you think about your favorite movies and things, they all end with the good guys winning, don't they? You ever watch a movie where the assholes win and beat the crap out of the good guys? You ever see any movies like that?
The Way of the Gun.
No kidding?
Yeah.
I mean, officially, according to Aristotle, tragedies have lots of characteristics, but specifically, it's the hero does everything right and still gets screwed in the end.
I would say Romeo and Juliet, but they do everything wrong. So
Well, I think Romeo and Juliet might be one of the few Shakespearean tragedies that's actually a tragedy in Aristotelian sense, or you can imagine it, because they're clearly the heroic pair, and in a sense they're doing everything, but fate screws them up, right? Timing is what screws them up. The monk doesn't get the message to Romeo in time, and Romeo is in such a hurry to get back that he doesn't realize that she's alive, even though she looks dead. You know, when he kisses her and he says, "Thy lips are still warm." You idiot! That's because she's still alive. You know, then he drinks the poison. You stoop. Why didn't you just wait a few more seconds, and she'd have woken up, you know, and you wouldn't have had a tragedy. So, in a sense, that's exactly what Aristotle talks about. It's like fate. Despite the fact that they've got such a perfect plan, etc., fate screws it up, and heroes die. But you know, for most of our American movies that we like, and by the way, and for most of the other tragedies, even like King Lear. King Lear is considered a tragedy. not a historical play, right? Have you ever studied Shakespeare?
Not
No.
extensively, no.
Not years ago I had Shakespeare 1 and Shakespeare 2. The one was the history plays and the other one was all the other ones. Comedies mostly. But King Lear, when you think about King Lear is an old king who decides that he's too old now to continue being king, so he's basically going to retire. So he gives his kingdom, he splits it 3 ways to his 3 daughters, as long as they confess that they love him, right? Confess in a good sense, right? And when he asks Cordelia is the one who's honest and says, no, I don't really love you more than anything else. I'm, in love with, I hope to be in love with my prince, etc., And he's so furious at her that he doesn't split the kingdom 3 ways, he splits it 2 ways. Right? But of course, both of those daughters are lying, and they immediately start fighting one another because both of them want the whole thing, and they really could care less about Dad. He's old, senile anyway, so everybody dies in the end. But when you look at, everybody's significant. Of course, there's some people left to sweep the stage. Right. It has to be some historical. Lear, by the way, is kind of a mythos, possibly historical, but it was ancient Celtic England, not Christian modern England. Lear. In fact, it's kind of interesting. This is the story. So that's just a nice story, but I think it's Collins, Hamilton Harty. So if you're interested. So the children get turned into swans in the myth, not in Shakespeare's play. So the changing your kids into a bird and then bringing them back if they're good, that kind of is kind of an interesting myth. Why it happens, I don't know. But so this is Hamilton Harty. So if you're into British music, it's kind of interesting. Just throw that in there. Just make you think I'm cultured. Not really. Just pretend. It is beautiful though. You get a chance to sit and you ever just sit and listen to music? Or is it always background stuff?
Background usually.
Always background.
Yeah, always background.
I sit and listen to music.
Очень хорошо, which is Russian with a British accent. So it's very good.
Oh.
Sorry. Очень хорошо is Russian for very good, but when you say it, очень хорошо, that's the way the British sounded when I was working with the British translators when they were. Don't know why. It's just a meme stuck in my head. Очень хорошо. So British, however. Of course, the funniest accent I ever heard in Berlin and Germany, because Berlin is in Germany, so there are other Berlins, but in that one was the Chinese waiter in the Chinese restaurant in the folk term who waited on us in German, because he spoke German with a Chinese accent. And that was like absolutely hilarious. I'm sorry. But
I bet that would just kind of confuse your mind as you were listening.
he was also the one that gave alcohol to our infant.
Ah,
We,
On purpose?
well, we had ordered the dinner and everything. We had Billy sitting in the high chair, and we ordered him ice cream. And he said, with strawberry sauce. And we said, yes. So we put strawberry sauce on it, and we started feeding it to Billy. And when we gave him like a spoonful, he went, and we were like, that's odd. Maybe it's cold. You know, so we just kept feeding him, and he was like, ah. You know, and he didn't finish it. And we were like, oh, well, we'll finish it. We took a spoonful and went, the strawberry sauce was schnapps, you know, so it was like, we now had a drunk infant son.
it's kind of funny.
You know, they're kind of very hard to keep them stiff, you know. Sorry. It was a non sequitur, which is Latin for it doesn't follow from what I was saying. It's the last class, except for the final. I guess I should mention that too. This is our last class. We have a final meeting, but it's not mandatory for you to come, so if you have a conflict, don't feel like you have a conflict. You don't have to come, but you're welcome to come. You can bring food, we can have a party, but we have to be neat. We can't make a mess. No alcohol. I will bring a movie, but you guys get to vote on what movie you would like to see if you're coming. So please don't vote if you're not coming. You know, like, so if I get all these votes for The Meaning of Life, Monty Python, and then the one person that shows up wants to see Lucy or something, right? You know, don't make that person watch the Monty Python Meaning of Life because he didn't want to see Monty Python. So well, I'll actually bring like a stack of videos, and the people that actually come next week can pick which movie they want to see, and we'll discuss it. Should be a philosophical movie, and we should discuss it. And quiz questions for tonight. The first one that I have for you is, what do you think the value of this course has been for you, or philosophy in general? Do you feel like it's been worth it, especially with, you know, if you have any comments about my approach? Because remember, this is the first time I've done it this way, just kind of scattergun topics instead of going through the historical approach. And we've had a lot more discussions in this class than I usually do, because usually I'm going through notes. You know, if I'm
Were
going
you
through.
guinea pigs?
Pardon?
Were you guinea pigs?
You have been. You have been. Because like normally, like I'll have like notes like this, and I'll put those up and go this way. I haven't made up notes for these lectures, because instead I just says, okay, we're going to talk about Aristotle on tragedy. I just wing it, right? So that's been fun. But probably less boring. Because if I start telling you, okay, so Descartes established the priority of reason over faith, show that knowledge is possible through the use of reason, I think, therefore I am, etc. That would put you to sleep, right? Yes? Instead of I say,
Even in the front row.
even in the front row.
Especially on Friday night.
Right.
Yes, yes, yes. So, just by the way, if you do plan on taking my history sequence courses next semester, I am going to use it this way. Because we actually have stuff I have to teach you. You know, it's not just, you know, hey, everything is circular. Well, it is, actually. Everything, go look up a definition in the dictionary, and what does it use? It uses other words to tell you what that word means. And when you look up those words, you find out that it might probably even use the word you just looked up first to tell you what that one meant, right? They're all just all... Okay? None of the definitions will say, this is the meaning of that word. Especially because they know that you're carrying the book and you might not be in the same place where the guy said this is the meaning. Which is the problem with the word this. What does this mean?
Oh, you see that?
Well, that's because you're sitting over there.
Okay, you win.
If you were up here, it wouldn't be that, it would be this. Except in Russian, because they don't have the difference. Это, 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 это. In German, you can say da drüber, that over there, which is better than thesis. So, everything is circular. These are all conceptual terms. How do you first start learning language? We think it's the kind of point in milk. This is milk. Well, that might not be this kind of milk. It might be another kind of milk. In which case,
Listening and watching.
apparently babies can tell their mother's milk from other mother's milk. Which makes sense, since mothers can tell the odor of the poo-poo from their baby, rather than the other, right? Husbands can't. No discriminatory ability in that sense for the husband.
I gotta like if the wife brings it up, like, what the hell are you talking about? How many different babies' poop have you smelled?
I suppose if you're at the hospital and you've got, you can do a test. Let's see.
You're just gonna wander into
Somebody-
some other lady's room. Can I have that? There's something I just gotta see.
Oh, they
Aha,
prefer
it's
it
not-
even.
It's not just can they identify them, they prefer. See, it's science, I think. How do you know? It's circular reasoning. You'll discover it's circular reasoning. So,
Needle and thread.
so the first quiz question is, do you think philosophy or this course has had some sort of practical advantage for you? And the second quiz question is, what movie would you like to see next week? If you're coming.
Cherry 2000.
And if it's a weird movie like that, how am I going to get it? I don't know.
I don't know.
Blockbuster.
I was just gonna say they have it at Blockbuster. No, they didn't.
There, from what I've read, there are 10 such stores still operating in the United States, and 7 of them are in Alaska.
7 of them?
One of them is
Alaska, I
in
think, if I remember correctly.
Wasilla.
Well, I know there's one.
Well, mostly I have The Circle, which a lot of people haven't seen yet, and I think it's a really interesting, thought-provoking movie. It's kind of like about Facebook, except, well, it's Tom Hanks is the owner of The Circle. You have not seen it? So it's The Circle. Very philosophically interesting.
movie sucked.
Pardon?
I heard that movie was trash.
Really?
Do you think you behave better or worse when you are being watched?
Got this.
Well, that was fast.
I am a believer in the perfectibility of human beings. At the Circle, we can finally realize our potential. When we are our best selves, there isn't a problem
might
that we
have
cannot
been
solve.
considered
We can cure any
whatever you
disease, and we
call
can
it,
end
trash.
hunger. Imagine the human rights.
Because it's so philosophical?
The possibilities are endless.
I heard it was really intriguing, like the premise. I just heard the delivery
It was
was
for
shit.
7813 and the bill was for 7831. Thank you.
That could be. But I thought the question it posed was a real live question. Because
Hi, May. How are you?
Jared here, I'll be doing your training.
I've got cameras running in the room. You
Fine.
know, there's cameras all over the place.
You might think I was there to clean the
We're
toilets.
inching our way towards the hypothesis of
Your
the,
work's been exemplary,
plot.
strong ratings, but your absence
So
at
that-
several events.
and it
Sorry,
doesn't-
my dad had an episode and I was
doesn't
helping
end
out.
with it. It leaves it hanging
I've been
there,
looking into your parents' situation and
wondering, what are we going
I was
to
thinking it
do?
would make sense
Are we
for
going to
us
go?
To come to the Circle Health Plan.
So
I
there's
wanna
good
see how much I
reasons
value what you've done for
to
my family.
video
You're a
everything.
valued part of the Circle.
Because
We
it
care
does
about
away with a whole
everybody
bunch
you care
of
about. May's only been with
corruption.
us for a few months.
Corruption
But
was
she
one of
has
the big
made
things
quite
with
an
this.
impression.
You're not going to have
So,
corrupt
May, do you think
politicians
you behave
anymore
better or
if
worse
everything
when
they
you
say
are
and
being
do is
watched?
publicly
We have cameras
open
in place all
for
over
everyone
the
to
world.
watch. Right?
We used to go on
And that's actually starting to happen. As you notice, all of these politicians are suddenly coming under the gun for the things that they've done from even like 40 years ago. So more and more of the stuff that was like what, they thought they could get away with it? You know, now, whoa, you can't get away with anything. So a lot of that's going to change.
They can use it however they see fit, no matter what it's cost.
Knowing is good, but knowing everything is better. So, May, is there anything you want to tell us?
No secrets. Are we going to live a life where there's going to be like no secrets? I don't have any. I put everything on Facebook or YouTube. Well, no, actually, I still wear clothing. Let's face it, the things I put on YouTube or Facebook are things that are legal. Does that make sense?
Well, if they're illegal, you wouldn't want evidence. You put on
I
YouTube.
thought it was interesting when I asked the question, which female president would you like to be our first female president? One of you said, Jennifer Aniston. I love her.
Was that it?
Well, I'm just trying to picture Jennifer Aniston as president, and she makes a really good commercial. But I mean, I haven't bought any of the products she sells, because I don't think it would help, you know. But on the other hand, I could just see her, vote for me, you know, because it's beautiful. I'm beautiful, you know. Well, on the other hand, Hillary, one of the critiques of Hillary was that she always wore pantsuits. She didn't look very feminine.
That's a complaint.
That was a complaint.
All the other things to complain about her. That's what they want to figure out. The complaint of.
They are always hard on whatever the first lady wears. It's either gorgeous or ugly.
Right.
And it really depends on the popularity of the president as to whether or not the things that they could walk out in a trash bag. And if public liked the president, they'd go, oh, what a wonderful concept.
So I don't really give a shit what they wear. It makes no difference to me what they wear.
Well,
They spend too much money on clothes.
let me kind of move on to this as a way to wrap up the course, I think. All right. Are we postmodernists? What do you think we should be called? I mean, if you use contemporary, that makes sense. It means with now. Con means with. Tempus fugit. This is like now, right? So contemporary, you could certainly say that. Although I remember contemporary philosophy being like up to the 1950s. I don't remember them talking about contemporary philosophy after that being contemporary. Postmodernism was also, God bless you, Gesundheit, Gute Zdrowia, a votre santé. Shalom. I don't know what else. After about 5 or 6, I lose track. I still don't understand why in English when we say salute, we don't say salute, we don't say l'chaim, we don't say zdorowia, we say here's mud in your eye. Right?
What do you mean,
Cheers.
cheers?
Cheers is good. Here's mud in your eye. It's like, what? Where does that come from?
I was like, is that what cheers means?
Did you ever hear that? Here's mud in your eye.
No. I didn't know
Another
that was a
weird
thing.
question. Let me just ask this because I have to. What's Jesus Christ's middle initial?
H.
H is what yours.
I couldn't help myself.
Where did that come from? Where did H come from?
My
That is just-
mother.
Yes, but where did they get it? That's the...
Maybe it's holy.
No. No, it comes from the pyro... how do we...
See, you ask these questions and you know the answers to them. You have an unfair advantage.
That's true. Well, actually, that's not going to help. That's not the pyro. On the cross, there was supposed to be this symbol. Is that right? No, that's not. On the cross, it was supposed to be. Well, whatever it was, the one that was on the cross was supposed to look like an H to some people. And so they thought, Jesus H. Christ. Which is just absolutely hilarious. However, but whenever I've asked people what's Jesus' middle initial, everybody says H. So that is embedded in our culture from, did you find something?
No.
You looking?
No.
No? That's pretty hilarious. But this isn't what they had on the cross. What did they have on the cross?
That's the symbol that Constantine had them put on their shield, the Cairo. That was the Battle of something bridge, I don't remember.
It's supposed to be the King of the Jews. INRI. I thought that's where it came from, but sorry about that. I have to look it up. Usually you guys find stuff faster than me. So let's go back and look at the dilemma. So if we say we're postmodernists, first what do we mean by modern? So strictly speaking, if you were a modern, and for that we probably can be more specific than Descartes. I can think of from Descartes to Kant as the moderns. But they thought science and technology are useful and good. We can take that all the way up to the pragmatists. All people are equal regardless of physical characteristics. That's part of our state religion, right? All men are created equal. What do we mean by that? Thomas Jefferson and King George are equal You can't have King George telling Thomas Jefferson what to do. But Thomas Jefferson, by the way, can have slaves. And of course the women folk don't vote, etc., right?
Of course.
Of course. Socially constructed, right? That hadn't changed. You know, the social construction theory says, hey, we can change this. We don't have to think this way. We can create a more just society, right? But so we use this is kind of a dogma of our state religion, that all people are equal, regardless of physical characteristics. Rationality and intelligence are what makes it possible for someone to be successful. So it's a meritocracy, right? You get your education, you study hard, you get A's, you go out there and you'll get a great job, right? That's theory. Right? Science rather than ancient myths or religious beliefs are necessary for the success of society. That's the militaristic atheists that want to get rid of religion. Right? History shows our progress has been great and should continue to make life better. Individual rights should be subservient to general needs of society. This is kind of like what Martha Nussbaum was talking about. Each person is a self-made individual with freedom to make his or her own choices, especially if you're an Ubermensch. So now you can be in charge of yourself, right? Therefore, we can use our intelligence to make a better world through science. Well, but what do postmoderns think of these? What makes us postmodern? Well, number one, we no longer are so confident that science is bound to have good results. We've seen things blown up by science. And we know that you can get radiation. I mean, they didn't know about radiation. They had all these people standing there, watch the bomb. Oh, wow, that was a really bright light. That was pretty dumb. Now they're all dead. Why? They had cancer. Why? Because they watched the bright light. Right? So that was really dumb, right? I'm a guinea pig. Talk about guinea pigs. Everything I've ever eaten has been a scientific experiment. My whole life. All the foods that I've eaten have been science-developed weird things. Oleo, didn't eat butter. We had polysaturated, high fructose. Read the label. What is that stuff? Right? Gluten, fructose, polysaturated, you name it. And it's like, what is this stuff? No one really knows. I'm a walking corn chip, basically. Because everything I eat is made out of corn, including the beef, corn-fed. Is that a good thing? I mean, they advertise grass-fed. You're supposed to eat grass-fed beef. Right? We eat corn-fed stuff. So if you look at the meat, you'll discover that it came from corn. And the corn isn't even real corn. It's genetically modified corn, which grows using petroleum products. So the carbon in my body is not even the same carbon that my parents had in their bodies. My carbon is carbon 4 and their carbon is carbon 3, or the opposite, whatever it is. Because the plants that I've been eating all my life have grown from the benefit of fertilizers made from oil instead of sunlight. It still needs the sunlight for the plant to be stiff and standing there, but the main reason it goes is because of the petroleum products that they feed it. And then I eat it. Or I eat the cattle that ate it. And as a result, I'm full of oil.
You also have traces of plastic in the snow too.
Thanks for that. Plus I have lots of medicines. I've got, at night I take this bag and I line them all up so I don't forget which ones You know, and so if something happens, like the dog comes and says, "Arf!" I go, oh crap! Now I don't remember where I was. And this one reduces this, and this one adds this, and everything. But don't take this with this or this or that. And they're all brand new. You know, none of these are like your mother grew them out in the backyard. So, I'm an experiment. The good news is, hey, I'm still 66 and growing. May not be the best way to. And I have friends that are like in their 80s and 90s, and the one friend who's in his late 80s is currently living, because he's a snowbird, he doesn't like staying here during the winter, so he's in Florida in the Keys, and he sits on the balcony and he watches the girls walk by.
Sounds like my dad.
So that's, you know, so whatever it is we're eating, you know, we're getting to live a nice, full, long life, as long as you don't walk out in front of a car or a bus, especially with the roads like we have today. So,
Or jump off a roof.
so I'm an experiment. And you guys are experiments too. You're the children of experiments. Because even if you eat organic, that's a fraud. Because the organic farms are owned by the non-organic farms, and the fields that are the organic fields are like right next to the non-organic fields. And when they spray these, you've heard of wind.
It's basically just a scam so they can charge you more money for it.
Yes, yes, you pay more, you know, and you have to go to special stores where, unless you have a Subaru or above, you can't shop there.
Well, I got a Subaru. So
You know, it's a social categorization, you know. A Chevy? What are you doing with a Chevy and this lot? You know, that's...
Are you lost?
Are you lost? Your kind shop over there.
Down yonder.
It's just natural pantry. And you can tell as soon as you walk in, everything is natural. The walls are natural. You go in and there's a water fountain coming down the wall. Wow, that's natural. Every building ought to have a water fountain running down the wall. That explains why the cheese, the same cheese that you get in cars, is $2 extra for the same block.
Yes, they can.
Okay, so science. We're no longer absolutely convinced that everything science does is going to be wonderful. Maybe, but maybe not. Should we drug our children, especially boys, if they're like hyper and they won't sit still? Give them meds and then they sit there.
we have
They look like boneless chicken farm pictures.
We have this archaic form of schooling that was invented in the 19th century to make people loyal to the state, and you have boys who don't do so well in that environment because they'd rather be outside playing. But instead of changing our schooling, we'll drug them. That makes a lot of sense.
You've seen pictures of the boneless chicken farms, right? That's the kind of chicken we eat. Which is also why I cry now. There's some music. As soon as I hear the music, I start to cry. And I'm sure it's because of all the estrogen in my food. Start crying already. I can just, that's so sad. seen the movie or read the book? My wife is actually reading this book right now by Bronte.
She read it before.
I don't think she has, but we have seen the movie. Oh, that's so sad. It's very sad. And so, why do I cry as I've gotten older? Is it supposed to be that as you get older, you cry more? Or is my biochemistry being screwed up by all the chicken that I eat? What's in a nugget? A chicken nugget? No one knows, right? Chicken parts. What parts? Parts are parts, right? Pardon?
Ground up baby boys.
Ground up baby boys?
Yeah, because they don't use the boys. So what do they do with them? They grind them up. for
Boy
nuggets.
chickens. You know.
Oh, okay. Boys.
Boys.
You know what? You remember, what was her name? The lady that sold the meat pies that had extra, you know, that were full of body?
Isn't it
Mrs.
Sweeney Todd?
Sweeney
It was on
Todd.
Sweeney Todd.
Mrs. Laster? No. So if you go to the dungeons
No, what's that?
in London,
It's disgusting, is what it is.
yeah, so if you're in London, this is the dungeons are right next to where the big Ferris wheel is in London. That big Ferris wheel that you can get on. And the London prison was right next to that, and there she is. See, she's selling meat pies, which are very hearty, full of body. So I'm not really sure how but that's her there. You know, the demon barber of Fleet Street killed his customers. You know, they'd sit down, he'd talk to them, tie the thing around and everything, come with a straight razor, put the cream all over, and then he'd go, and then he'd push the lever and the chair went flip, and it dropped the body down below, where she cooked it and turned it into pies, which she then sold in her shop. Meat pies. They were very popular. It has nothing to do with anything we were talking about. So basically, I should just open I should go back to this, right? Is everybody equal? What do we think of that? And you laughed when I mentioned that as one of the modern beliefs, that all men are created equal. That's not true. None of us are the same. We're all completely different. Our DNA is different. How much Neanderthal do you have in your DNA? I was confused the other day because one of my cousins told me that my Aunt Helen, who's my dad's sister, dad's dead, but she's the sole remaining aunt, right? That when she did the DNA thing through National Geographic, they said she was Italian and Jewish. This is a red-haired, freckled person. Italian Jewish. And nothing in my background said I was Italian or Jewish. So I'm thinking, wait a minute, this can't be right. Unless Grandmom lied to Grandpa. Right? Was she fooling around with an Italian Jew on the side? No, I don't think so, actually. So, I don't know if we could trust this. Plus, they charge you like $150 to send in your DNA, and then once they develop it and find out your DNA, they sell the information. So they're making money at both ends. So now I'm disgusted. You think that they should be doing that just out of the kindness of their hearts. Instead, they're like making money doing this. But here's the real, of course, issue is, are we really equal? In what sense?
We're not, but yes.
You get to vote. We're supposed to follow the laws. So, like, the laws that apply, the laws apply to all of you. The same, right? That means you're equal under the law, right? But actually, a police officer might look at you and say, she looks suspicious. I'm going to pull her over and check her ID. Just, your taillight's blinking funny. Instead of going on, off, it's going off, on, off, on, off, on. So I want to check your car.
Am I turning?
Turn signals? And turn signals go, when they're blinking, do they go on, off, or do they go off, on, off, on? That's dumb, right? That's a joke. If you're awake. So you tell me, are we equal? In what sense is that true?
The idea is supposed to be like equality under the law, that the institution of the government of the United States will treat you the same, which is also not true, but that's the idea anyway.
Even UAA, does UAA treat everybody the same?
Hell no.
No.
Any complaints? I know the deans, I could talk to them.
I make too much money to get any kind of financial assistance. So it's like, I'm successful, therefore I get nothing. Other people are not successful, therefore they get something. And to me, that's totally backwards.
On the other hand, you can take any course you like. You're not required to take a specific set of courses because of the program that you've been offered because of your degree or your scholarship.
Right, but that's the
People with
agreement.
scholarships are limited to what they can.
But they agreed to do that. They didn't have to. They could be in the same position I did if they wanted to be.
Scholarship and financial aid is different.
Right.
The scholarship falls under.
Scholarship you don't have to pay back.
Right.
Yeah, so with financial aid, you can still it's not very hard.
Yeah, although I think if you're like not progressing towards a certain degree or something, that they can stop your financial aid, right?
Yeah, but I think they don't really mind giving you financial aid.
As long as they figure they're actually going to get your money when you pay it back. It's pretty scary, the way they're charging fees and everything. They've got you, because you can't claim bankruptcy and have those the loans, student loans, they don't go away. You still have to pay those. So that's pretty scary. There's some folks out there that owe a lot of money. And they start to work and they discover that as they pay their loan off, after 20, 30 years, they owe more than they did when they started. So that's pretty screwy. That's possible. It's happened. There are people that report this kind of thing. And you think, why did they pay so? If they're only paying the interest, they're not paying off any of the principal. And then, well, of course, the interest rates go up over time or whatever, so you end up paying $20,000, $30,000, and your $40,000 principal is still there. Rationality and intelligence do not assure success. Are we really a meritocracy? I'm confused about this. Theoretically, I shouldn't be teaching this course. I don't have tenure. I should have never been allowed to teach for more than, 5 or 6 years. So unless you have tenure, you're not supposed to be hired after you've been here 5 years. This is my 23rd year. So I never had tenure. I'm not eligible to apply because I don't have a PhD. But they keep hiring me anyway. So it's look ugly enough. As soon as they see me, they say, "Oh man, let's get him." You must be a great teacher. Yes, I even had bugs in my beard. You want to see? No. But I can get chicken in my beard, which is annoying. Because there's probably estrogen in my beard, which means my beard will cry too. It does not seem that quality of life is improved when science debunks the myths and religious beliefs of our communities. That's because C.S. Lewis, I think, is right, that we need a good, healthy meta-narrative to convince us that this is why we're alive, and this is why we have goals, and we'd love to do this. Unfortunately, science debunks all of the narratives and points out none of them are true. Well, that's because stories aren't true. Narratives are stories. So, strictly speaking, none of the meaning of life narratives that you can believe are science. You can have the science of meta-narratives. You can do that. You can study the various kinds of meta-narratives. And I think you can scientifically analyze them, as Miroslav Volf is trying to do, and figure out which narratives are actually good for human society, which enable us to flourish, and which ones just want us to kill one another, right? Let's get rid of the ones that want to kill everyone, and instead just nurse the religious practices that are essentially good scientific ways of helping society. But that's something we could argue about. History shows that progress is not consistent. Remember Lenin's book, Shag Vperyod, Dva Shaga Nazad, which means 1 step forward, 2 steps back. That's like, who wants to do that? That's really dumb, right? Forward is good, back is bad. So you want to go forward. You might, every once in a while, have to take 1 step back, but you want to keep going forward. That's true. But you could always just hopefully have a hippogriff right next to you who will step in and go, the bear will run away. And you would say, that was really scary. It's a Harry Potter thing.
Why would I be walking?
Pardon?
If I had a hippogriff, why would I be walking?
That's true. That's true. Well, search the sky. Search the ground. Search the sky. I, however, will have a cup of tea or a large brandy. Sorry. I could ask this question. Do I bring up Harry Potter too much in class? No?
Yes.
Yes?
He doesn't like Harry Potter.
One time is too many. You still haven't watched or read?
I like Harry
No,
Potter.
like I said, my girlfriend forced me to watch the first movie, and my opinion was not changed, in fact solidified.
You don't like Harry Potter, dude?
No, the main characters are elitist assholes.
Main characters are awful.
They have knowledge that would fundamentally transform my understanding of the universe, and they hoard it to themselves like elitist dicks. No respect for
It's
that.
something weird. They're electrical.
That's
You know, they walk out in the park and everything in the park starts going. Nobody goes to Azkaban because they just blew up their aunt.
The best part about Harry Potter is the food. Like, filling food that just comes back. I mean, today, I'm just eating all of it.
Well, if you read the books, there's actually all the house elves below are making, right? You know.
So they got slaves making the food.
Yes, that's part of the books.
So
It's not in the movies at all.
They're elitists and slavers.
They like making the food. I don't know that, but
I actually did like the movie.
coming with some like that.
Yeah,
Have you read
Fermenting
the
Fish
translation in Armenian or Norwegian or German?
I actually read the first book in Norwegian when I was pretty young, but the Norwegian version is just so dumb. Like they even translated the names, and it's except for Harry, Hermione, Ronnie, and it's just dumb. Yeah, so I tried to read it in English, but back then that was too exhausting because I was very bad at it. So yeah, I kept to watching.
Oh well. So our dilemma today is who would want to be a postmodernist? Because it sounds like all our conclusions are pretty depressing. And we actually have several different choices. So existentialism, as I've mentioned, we talked about the Ubermensch, so to speak, in one way or the other. Those are one option once you become a postmodern. Another possibility is Marx. And by the way, that's everyone kind of agrees that Marx misunderstood enough about human psychology that his theories that some have tried to incorporate into politics have been dismal failures. But we still have some Marxists out there. And the main point, remember that the critique is capitalism. You know, we might not be able to create a communist society because that seems to absolutely fail miserably. But you still have severe problems with capitalism because of the kind of wealth divide, the kinds of unfairness. I mean, justice is not justice where everybody gets basic treatment or above, right? Instead, it's with everybody has equal opportunity, but only the tall people get to play basketball. Only the really physically fit get to do this, that, or the other thing. If you're on the Russian team, you can't compete in the Olympics. I mean, you know, so when you get right down to it, Marxism is still there as a criticism of what we're faced with. So that's still there. But I would also argue that the best answer is pragmatism. So as we kind of discussed the various things, I would say that a pragmatist point of view is really our best one. It's the American basic philosophy. It still believes in progress, but you have to be wary of, this will be a wonderful new way of creating food, but all the children will have 3 arms. Whoa, that's not a good thing, right? So let's be a little careful, because we don't want babies with 3 arms, because you have to go out and buy them all new clothes. Plus, can you imagine putting them into the car seat?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be tough, right?
I think it would work the same way.
driverless cars. Driverless cars are going to be absolutely wonderful. Just think how much money we're going to save, and air pollution and everything. Everybody won't have to have their own car. We'll just have Uber cars. Whenever you need a car, it'll just drive over and pick you up and then drop you off. And that way it won't be 90% of the time parked in the garage or on the street. Instead, the cars will be being used all the time that are there, right? All wonderful things. And then you have your driverless car plow into a truck and kill everybody because it didn't see the truck. Oh, well, let's fix that, maybe, before we have all of California driving driverless cars. By the way, do driverless cars in California know, hey, that's a fire, let's not drive that way? I don't know. Could be bad. Plus, global warming, that could be a result of science too. Right? I mean, one of my favorite explanations of this is right here.
It's wonderful having you on the show. I always wanted to get to know you and find out what you're really like.
Oh.
Yeah, because whenever I watch you on television, you're always pretending to be so dumb. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not pretending. I really am dumb.
You are?
Yeah, I am. And what's more, I'm proud of it. Dumb is beautiful.
You're proud of being dumb?
That's right. I mean, now, did you ever stop and think, who are all the people that cause all the trouble in the world?
I give up who?
The smart people.
Smart people.
That's right. And who are the scientists and the statesmen and the generals who run all the government, make all the wars, and the dumb people? No, the smart people. That's right. And another question. Look at air pollution. I mean, who invented the cars and the machines that cause all that?
The smart people.
The smart people.
Yes.
Yes. And what's the major problem confronting our universities in the,
The smart people. I never thought of that.
That's because you're dumb like me.
She's so right. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, and then there's the overpopulation crisis.
Well, now you just wait a minute and hold on there, Goldie. You can't blame that on the smart people. I mean, dumb people have just as many babies.
Yeah, but they can't count
I
them.
know that. I know you, Goldie, but what can we dumb people do about this
Well,
thing?
now, this is the question we all have to stick together.
Yeah.
I said that before, didn't I?
Only when I heard it. Go ahead.
In fact, we just formed a national organization.
Organization?
Yes.
Hey, why don't you cheer up?
It's called the DDA.
The DDA?
Dumb Dumbs of America.
Oh.
Yeah, it costs $5,000 to join. We never have any meetings. You don't get membership.
No membership?
Membership privileges. You don't even get a membership card.
Well, gee whiz, a person would have to be real dumb to join an organization like that.
Exactly. That's how we weed out all the undesirables. I said that's how we weed out all the undesirables.
You said that just the same as you did the first time. That ain't being too dumb. Well, doesn't your organization have any activities at all?
Yes, we went and did
You went and pulled what?
a dum-dum march, a dumb people's march on Washington.
What happened?
Well, we got lost.
You got lost.
Look, this is
Is
so
there
perfect.
any possible way that you can join an organization
Yeah, like that. It's not.
He didn't finish his line, and she did
like
finish.
that?
It's not easy. You see, there's an initiation test.
Oh.
And and you have to get under 30 to pass.
You have to have under 30 to pass? Well, what kind of test is it?
Well, let me show you. Can we have a dictionary, please?
It's another dummy that threw it in. All right, now how's this thing go? What do you do?
Well, you look in there. You pick out some words and I'll tell you what you mean.
Oh, all right. All right. Okay, here we go. Appreciate.
Appreciate. That's like last year what you lost on your car.
Oh. Posterity.
Posterity. That's what you're sitting on wherever you are.
Familiarize.
Familiarize. That's like when you're getting fresh with a chicky-boom-boom.
Oh, all right. Subterfuge.
He goes in the game to kick.
Goes in the game to kick.
Yeah, well.
Well, hot diggity dirt. I didn't know that. All right. To correspond.
To correspond. When you make two people get a divorce.
In Providence.
In Providence. That's a city in Rhode Island, of course.
Euphonious.
Euphonious. That's some instruments Hungarians pick.
An antidote.
If your poison teeth click. A word a day. Like resume.
Yes.
That's how we keep our fancy IQ. A word a day.
A word a day.
Like cheese souffle. Oh, that day.
Oh, cheese souffle. From Park Avenue to under 8.
She's not really an idiot.
That's a word insurance salesmen use most.
What's tantamount?
Tantamount. That's a company that is here on the coast, a picture company on the coast.
Disseminate.
Disseminate. That's a fella with the feminine point of view.
This is old, so
Kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope means I know you.
all those were wrong, by the way.
Just in case you were wondering.
Well, on that note, if you're interested in joining the DDA, I lost their address, so I don't know where they are. I'm sure you can look them up on Google though.
If I only had $5,000.
They never have any meetings. So, oh well. Of course, if you use this to calculate how much you actually owe, I'm sure you could send them a check with nothing on it. So that's the end of the course, except for the final session, I guess. I hope I severely damaged your brain. In a good way. So you don't graduate and exist basically as an automaton, but you'll be able to think for yourself and hopefully laugh at a lot of the things. If you saw the What is Water lecture that I have posted, that's pretty hilarious. There's a scene in that where actually I have to.
If anybody feels like perspiring, I'd invite you to go. There are these two young fish swimming along, and they happen to meet of learning how to be well-adjusted. You get to consciously decide.
I think these
what
two
that
end
means
up meeting
and
one
what
another in line at the grocery store.
That is real freedom. That is being educated.
And they look at one
and
another and laugh.
understanding
Good
how
night,
to
thank
think.
you. Are you? Well,
The
you'll email me,
alternative
right,
is
about whether you're
unconsciousness,
coming or not
the
next
default
week?
setting, the rat race, the constant nonsense of having had and
Yes,
lost
yes,
some
no
infinite
change.
thing.
6 to 8:45.
And so you want
I'll be doing a movie.
I know that this stuff
And then we
probably
can
doesn't
discuss
sound
it, or
fun
we
and
can just
breezy
discuss
or grandly
It's up to you
inspirational
guys.
the way a commencement speech is supposed
You're
to sound.
the one paying for the
What it
pizza,
is,
so
as
you
far as
get
I
to
can
ask
see,
what you
is
want
the
on the
capital
pizza.
T truth with a whole lot of rhetorical niceties stripped away. You are, of course,
If you
free to
like,
think of it
sometimes
whatever you
people
wish.
bring in food. I won't bring
But
anything
please
in.
don't
but
just dismiss it as
I
some
want anyone to die
finger-wagging
because I
Dr.
had
Laura
peanuts in
sermon.
it or something.
None of this stuff is really about
Yes,
morality
welcome to
or
bring in
religion
stuff.
or dogma or big fancy questions
When
of
do you need
life
all our
after
work
death.
done?
The capital T
By
truth
Monday
is
of the
about life
following week.
before death.
So,
Okay, that's the 18th.
It is about the real value of a real education,
That sounds too
which has
late.
almost nothing to do with
17th,
knowledge and everything to do with simple awareness. Awareness of what is so real and essential, so hidden in plain sight all around us all the time, that we have to keep reminding ourselves over and over, this is water. This is water.
so today's the 8th.
So weekday there would be the 15th.
Next week. So this is our last class, right? That's right.
Next week is
So
the 15th, and the following Monday would be the 18th.
so Monday the 18th.
Yeah, I was right.
So yeah, I have to have it by Monday the 18th. Because I have to have
The writer David Foster Wallace was suspicious of fame, other people's and his own. We're going to...
Well, that's the guy that
So
commits
I have to
suicide.
have things in by midnight on Wednesday. It would actually be much earlier than that. Just remember I go out drinking with the guys on Wednesday night.
Bless you.
So is that our finals due next Wednesday?
No, next Monday.
Next
No,
Monday?
no, the following Monday after
Well, the-
last class.
Well, we still have one more week, so next Wednesday
Right.
is before our final meeting. 'Cause
Right.
We meet Friday. Right?
The following
Um,
Monday.
Really, it should be sooner than that.
Yeah, can we send it to
What I
you?
have,
Anybody feels like,
what I have posted is the term papers are due tonight, so I don't know if you've turned those in or not. And the third exam is due on the 15th, but everything needs to be in. Because now's when I'm actually like looking at everything you wrote. And I take it, put it on my, flash drive, weigh it to see how heavy it was.
And you will accept the term paper?
Yes.
Alright.
In fact, if I don't have it, I'm gonna probably be emailing you like, where is it? 'Cause if you did send it to me and I didn't get it, that's bad news. Because that means I'm getting ready to give you a B or a C instead of an A because I'm missing something. And then you email me after you've seen your grade and say, hey, why did I get a B when I turned in everything? And I'm like, but I didn't get it. And then it's too late for me to fix it. See, that's the deal. Thank you.
But you always reply when we send stuff.
Well, hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully. I try.
No, you usually do.
Well, thank you for
Well,
this
it's kind
semester.
of
We'll
common
probably see you
courtesy.
next time.
Unless it's spam.
Oh yeah, last year.
So, yeah, so next week, last session.
Last session.
Will we be seeing the circle, or will we be seeing something?
Well, it's up to whoever comes. I'll bring it. I think it's a good
You
movie.
should bring it. I like Tom Hanks.
Can we bring our own
And Emma
suggestions?
Watson.
Yes.
It has to be a philosophy.
Does it have to be a philosophy movie?
Well, we can make philosophy out of anything.
Okay.
So X-Men it is then.
X-Men?
Yep.
I've never seen it.
What? Oh my god, I think you'll have a blast. Again.
They're the ones that are genetically
Mutated.
mutated, and then like one of them has knives and.
Yeah, I think you enjoy it. You can make
Dude,
a really
it's
good
a
philosophy
cool
class out of
movie.
it.
You need to watch them. They're really
I haven't
cool.
seen every movie that's out there because you have to spend some time reading. These things.
And sometime watch it.
These things take time to read.
Okay, so we could bring our own suggestions. I like it.
But yeah, you could bring whoever,
Repeat myself.
whatever pile of videos we have, we'll vote, and that's the one we'll watch.
Right on. Have a good night.
Good night.